Hello, and welcome. Sorry, we're a little bit tardy, so I'll let some people give it a few minutes, and we'll let some people join us. I want to let people know if you have not. Um, a lot of people are asking me for a code with regard to the Proline balls. I want to make sure you understand the Proline ball code will always be in the description below. The Proline balls, really, truly, the Lions Den in Houston, Texas. A lot of bigger facilities, a lot of college programs are now using the Proline balls. They use them for offensive purposes, obviously hitting. Also, they use them with regard to defense, whether it's catching, whether it's first base, balls in the dirt, ground balls, fly balls. They're durable and they have true ball flight. They carry and look much like the baseballs do, different composite material, but make sure you're ordering all your Proline balls, both for softball and baseball. If you're a coach, a program, a team, high school, travel, college, or you just have a cage in your backyard and you have a hack attack or a jugs machine to make sure that you're able to practice both indoors and outdoors by utilizing the Proline ball. Want to let parents know, student athletes know, first and foremost, wherever you're watching, going to encourage you to do two things right out of the gate. Please, if you're watching on X, formerly known as Twitter, make sure you make your way over to the YouTube page. Would love it if you would subscribe. Over 70% of people that watch my content are not subscribers. I would really appreciate it if you would take the time to subscribe. Also, engage with the video, leave a comment, leave a thumbs up. It does help with regard to the big boy algorithm. And if you have a question, tonight is a live Q&A. Anything that you would like me to discuss with regard to college athletic recruiting, getting a lot of people, even though my focus is and always will be baseball. I'm helping athletes now in the softball world, also helping athletes in the football world. We're going to dive into that topic a little bit because really the world of postgraduate school, which I've been talking about for 4 years, anyone that's really been kind of a part of the community over the last several years has heard me talk about postgraduate schools, and they are growing at a rapid pace. And that's part of the topic we're going to discuss here tonight. Uh, Mr. Smith. Okay, so I'm gonna start this off tonight by letting you know whenever you make your way to this video, whether it's live here this evening or later in the week. I want you to understand that this is going to be a little bit upsetting to some people. I know I say that, but what I'm going to say tonight is really the reality as it is, as we know college athletic recruiting today. I always try to explain to families that I'm working with, athletes that I'm working with, everything that I do is based on relationships. I interact with coaches. I interact with high school coaches. I interact with college coaches. Often now, I'm working more and more with regard to travel programs. And one of the things that I really want to let you know whenever you make your way to this video, this topic of college recruiting has kind of become I know more than you do. And I'm not saying that in the first person. It's kind of like, well, I know everything and that guy doesn't know anything. And it's nothing to do with that. In fact, those of us that work together and help each other and help families and help athletes, we're really not competing. We're just part of a community. But there are those that, whether it's a hitting instructor, or a pitching instructor, um, that want to kind of take this proprietary stance and kind of make it seem from a marketing perspective that their way is the right way, the only way. They have the answers. Nobody else has the answers. And they create this environment where parents feel like they're missing out or they're underinformed or in most cases they're overwhelmed. Well, I think I'm going to add to that a little bit, but if you allow me, the time, I'll provide you some insight that will help you. One, anything that we have done in the past with regard to recruiting, athletic recruiting at the collegiate level, it's different. And as the coaches have said over and over again, the genie is officially out of the bottle. It's not going back into the bottle. It's not going to, much like COVID, we've had a lot of people that have said, okay, once the COVID years work themselves out and all those athletes that got extra years of eligibility and the players' ages got older because they got 2 years if they were JUCO, 1 year if they were NCAA, and then we'll get back to normal. And so they're assuming that the same will be true with regard to the environment that we live in, which is predominantly older athletes, a lot of portal, a lot of moving parts with regard to the portal activity, the JUCO growth with regard to the roster sizes, et cetera. Those days are officially going to be here for the foreseeable future. I probably will be worm food when they make any of the changes. For instance, how many times over the last 3 years have I talked about and discussed openly? And when I predict the future, when I'm saying, okay, if I had a wand, here's what I would want you to know. Number one, I want you to know there's going to be a 5th year of eligibility. Now, it may happen this upcoming January, it may happen in the upcoming spring of 2026, but there will be, and I have this on, good insight and authority, there will be a 5th year of eligibility. So we have to begin to talk about this, or else, recruiting is just going to be an upsetting process for parents. And so what does that mean for the high school athlete? So I want you to think about, in an average college season for a starting position player, 300 at bats is probably 200 to 300 at bats for a position player. Let's call it 60 to as many as 90 innings for a starting pitcher, of which you generally have 4 or 5 of those a weekday, and then you have your weekend starters. And so when we start to think about innings and we start to think about the freshmen, the incoming freshmen, or the incoming class, recruiting class, we have to break it down into really 2 main categories. One, those are the plug and play players, meaning those are the players that are coming in via the portal. They're JUCO graduates. They're filling a hole. They're filling a need, and they are the the foundation of every recruiting class. And I want to make sure that I emphasize this whenever you're watching this. It is going to be pitching, a true shortstop, like a true middle infielder, true, meaning foot speed, fielding, arm strength, an athlete, an ultra athlete, an elite center fielder, somebody with foot speed, covers a lot of ground, steals a lot of bases. And then it's going to be the premium, preferable left-hand hitting catcher, but premium catchers, those that have good transfer skills, footwork skills, catch and receive. Everybody wants to talk about pop time, but catchers, it's all about receiving, blocking, throwing in that order. And then, oh, by the way, if you're a premium bat, those are the 4 big areas of need. And I don't mean any disrespect, but all of the other ancillary pieces are filled in, whether it's a bullpen arm, a corner position bat. And so what I want you to understand is, if you're a high school athlete, a lot of college coaches now are asking this question when I'm talking to them. Can this high school athlete come in and get 50 at bats? Can this freshman pitcher come in and give me 20 quality innings? Meaning they're going to be a participant in the season, because now we are looking at an industry that is, there's not a redshirt presence. There's not a, what I call a developmental / redshirt presence. So that 34 roster spot cap, I think it's final. I think the DSA, the designated student athletes, will work their way through over the next 4 years. And then when we get to the nuts and bolts, we're going to be talking about high school seniors are going to be under the eye of the microscope of, are they going to be an impact player, meaning are they going to get playing time? Because if they're not, they're just going to go into the portal, and I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to get them in here, work them out, and then they blow out of Dodge. So the high school athlete has to begin to take this information. And if you're a family, you have to take this information and begin to utilize it in your thought process with regard to where you're going to play. Because every high school student athlete that I interact with, and I get this, I'm a dad, I've gone through this as a parent, and I've also gone through this as a college coach when I'm talking to potential recruits. I get it. You want to play Division I, you want to play at a high level, you want to play at a recognizable program. Well, this school is interested. Well, if I go to that school, can I go to this school? And really what that's setting you up for, if we're all being honest, is disappointment. And so really you want to utilize these junior and senior years as really having a true understanding of where you're trying to realistically go. The key word there being realistically go. Where are you going to try to become a college student athlete? So that's our number one topic. Our number two topic that is going to really cause some scuttlebutt, and that is name, image, and likeness with regard to the collective is ultimately going to work its way throughout the NCAA. I don't want to confuse parents. You have JUCO, you have NAIA, and you have NCAA, the governing body of NCAA, which is Division I, Division II, and Division III. There is going to be NCAA collectives at the Division III level. It'll ultimately work its way into Division II. And so what we need to begin to discuss is, these people that do this consulting and all this stuff with regard to college recruiting, they're kind of not all. No one has all the answers, including myself. What I want you to understand is when we start getting into collectives at Division III and Division II, now it might be a year or two away, but it's coming, much like that 5th year of eligibility. You have to begin to understand the talent, the talent. Everybody assumes transfer portal means Division I to Division I. In a lot of cases, Division I athletes are going to begin to call these Division III and Division II schools because A, they're going to get between the lines. B, if they have collectives at these Division II and Division III schools, these athletes that want to get paid and play and name, image, and likeness, they're going to find their way to these schools that you as a student athlete in high school today may not be taking seriously. And it's time for parents to really have a firm understanding. When you're looking to play athletics at the collegiate level, there is no such thing as a inferior, lower level, whatever we want to call them, or whatever we might have used to have called them. There's no such animal anymore because Division III schools are competing for the same athletes in many cases. And this is a fact. This isn't a scare tactic. Division I and Division III and Division II are all competing for the same athletes, whether they're high school athletes, portal athletes, JUCO graduates. So it is a very, very different landscape that a lot of parents are not spending the time to really do their due diligence and understand that when you're getting an offer from a Division III program, and I don't want to use a name because I don't find it's fair, but any Division III program, if a college coach at any level is recruiting your student athlete, you need to take that serious. And the first question is, do they have the major that my student athlete is looking for? Are they geographically desirable? Because here's the fact. They all play baseball the same exact way, 60 feet, 6 inches, 90-foot base paths. The outfield is approximately 385 to 405, 330 down the lines. They use a 5-ounce baseball. So we have to really begin to re-engage in the true question that must be asked, which is, what is your ultimate what is the goal with college? Like, what is the desired destination? Is it a degree? Is it a network? I get it. You want to play professional baseball, and I love that. There should be no adult, including myself, that ever looks at a student athlete and says you cannot or you will not play professional baseball. I have 2 sons. Their dreams were to play professional baseball. I get it. I understand when you're looking into your child's eyes and you see that passion. I get it. But at the same time, college is a deeper part of your child, your student athlete's life, growing into becoming an adult, the academics, the community, etc. And there are those parents that say, I do not care what my student athlete majors in. I own it. I'm very well off. Great. And I'm happy because you've provided your family a great way of life. Kudos to you as a family. But the vast majority of people that go through college ultimately do look to have some kind of a profession, a vocation, etc. So college has to be that transition period where, okay, I get the baseball, but we want to, meet people, develop a network, gain an education, and ultimately become, at some point, a spouse, possibly a parent, possibly an employee or an employer. Baseball is a part of that process. The whole point of tonight's presentation is to say to you as parents, the recruiting process from a high school student athlete's perspective is narrowing. It's going to continue to narrow. And college coaches that call your student athlete, that engage with your student athlete, assume as a parent that they know that your student athlete is a pretty good athlete. Meaning, if they're picking up a phone or sending a text or sending an email and they're personally engaged with your student athlete, they're going to assume that your athlete is pretty good, or they have the ability to play at their school. What they really want to know is, tell me what I need to know about you, and how are you going to fit within our program? How are you going to help our program? How are we going to help you become a better adult, a better prepared adult for society and a community? Tell me about you. So they don't want to hear that you bat third, you were captain since your junior year, you hit 350. They really want to find out about what makes you tick and what type of personality you have, and what type of priorities you have and routines and things like that. But the 2 topics that we just talked about here, one, the 5th year is definitely coming. So if you're a 27, junior in high school, you need to begin to think, okay, I'm competing against the 25 high school graduates that when I get to college as a freshman, they're going to be in that portal, or they're going to be graduating junior college, and I'm going to be competing against that student athlete for a roster spot. You are not competing 100% against high school graduates. Big piece. 2, collectives, the name, image, and likeness collectives are coming to the lower levels of NCAA. So when that begins to occur, the whole purpose of me pontificating on Tuesdays is to help those families and those student athletes get out ahead of that. And how do you do that? You prepare differently. You prepare to be competing against the older athlete, the physical athlete, the college student ready athlete. Routines, daily routines, weekly routines, all of those things. And I'm going to answer these questions real quick. Tony, I want to tell you how much of this applies to NAIA. NAIA has already determined they are not going down the path, at least as of today, for the 5th year. They thought they were going to be doing that. They're not. There is no name, image, and likeness, or with regard to collectives, where the colleges are paying the athletes at the NAIA level. I do want to let you know that NAIA, and John Park, I'm going to answer your question. That's a great question. But Tony, I want to let you know, and parents, NAIA, Coach Dave Serrano, we talk about him. Coach Brad Shelton, we talk about him. When I start talking about schools, Ottawa, Hastings in Nebraska, Ottawa's in Arizona. We can talk about Georgia Gwinnett in Georgia. We can talk about Lee University in Tennessee. We can talk about Reinhardt in Georgia. These NAIA schools, one, they are affordable. Two, they are great athletic programs. Affordable academic environment where in some cases I know, like the Cumberlands, the University of the Cumberlands, we've had Brad Shelton on with us twice. You can go to school for 4 years and graduate with probably a max of $16,000 in student debt, and that's if you're an average student. If you're a quality student with a great GPA and a great transcript, they're going to continue to give you a financial aid package to enhance and entice you to stay at that program and not leave or transfer. NAIA baseball, boy, oh boy, a lot of guys get drafted out of there. You have elite, and I mean elite with a capital E, coaches at the NAIA level. So again, re-emphasizing, if you're getting a call and it's an NAIA coach, hey, good news, you can go work out. You can go to that school tomorrow and work out for that coach. You can, interact with the team. There are no real, what I call, restrictions with regard to quiet periods and dead periods. NAIA recruiting is much more interactive with regard to parents and student athletes and coaches. And I highly suggest that you take the time to listen to NAIA coaches, because in today's world, they are offering you an affordable, I don't want to call it an alternative, but an affordable opportunity or option for your student athlete. And I would tell you that if you're getting a call, most of the NAIA programs are in the South and in the Midwest, throughout the Pacific Northwest, very prominent in the Southeast, Tennessee, Georgia, Mississippi, through Kentucky, Tennessee, Louisiana, LSU Shreveport, LSU Alexandria, LSU Shreveport, 59-0. A lot of those athletes were former Division I NCAA players. So yes to NAIA. John Park, are two-way players becoming a more valuable now commodity for colleges, or should a senior in high school focus on one position? John, I'm so glad you asked this, and I hope that parents take this to heart. Versatility. Do not let any adult, and I mean that from a high school or travel or wherever, try to encourage your student athlete to be a PO or just pick a position. Versatility now, I talk to coaches all week long. That's not a braggart statement. That's just a part of what I do. It's like if I owned a muffler shop, I'd be talking to muffler supply companies every single day. If I was a dentist, I'd be talking to, not only patients, but, those companies that sell supplies that I need in order to work with my customers. That's what I do. And so when I'm talking to college coaches, I talked to Steve Holm today at Illinois State. He has like 3 or 4 two-way guys that are coming in that can pitch and play a position or can pitch and hit. So you don't want to stop until you get to college and somebody says to you, we have no need for you as a hitter, but we do value your arm and you will be a frontline starter for us, and we don't want you to get hurt. Versatility is always a plus until somebody at the collegiate or professional level says, that's it. Hunter Green, 98-mile-an-hour right-handed pitcher, Cincinnati, was a shortstop. He was a great hitter. Jonathan Santucci, Duke, All-American, two-way guy, tremendous hitter, tremendous hitter. First round draft pick, left-handed pitcher, and now he's pitching and he's not hitting. But my point to you is always, if you can do both and you enjoy doing both, versatility is a key. It is a plus for you as a student athlete with regard to college baseball recruiting. I promise you. Matt, do you believe there will be guardrails in place with the portal? I do not. I do not. If there's one thing we have learned, again, the litigation that was just settled goes back to 2009, and it began with Ed O'Bannon. You can look that up, basketball player, UCLA. And my point of telling you that is now more than ever, the NCAA is very pro student athlete. Like they do not, and there could be a day when the athletes are going to be treated as employees, and we're dealing with collective bargaining, and we're dealing with potential unions. It could get really crazy, but I do think fifth year of eligibility is going to come. That is inevitable. The collectives, and when I say collectives, that is schools that do fundraising to pay athletes. That's as simple as I can make it. I don't want to go any deeper because I don't want to lose people with regard to understanding. And I don't mean to say that in a negative connotation. I just mean to say that as those are two things that are coming where we can see the light through the tunnel. It's coming. Now, as far as the guardrails, there are coaches that will say to me, we're going to look to see if you transfer, you have to be, or if you come into school and you're compensated by the school through the collective, you have to be there for a minimum of 2 years or potentially 3 if and when they add the 5th year. I could see something like that happening. My opinion is if that is the language, that's probably the extreme, and it won't go any further than that. They won't limit to one time. They won't limit as far as the times of year. I think we'll see some time frames adjusted with Major League Draft, the portal windows of opportunity, of which now there are 2. We may get to one time a year. And at the completion of the spring season. But right now we have a football and basketball window. We have a baseball and softball window, a spring season. You have the football. But my point to parents of high school athletes, hear me. This is my opinion. You need to begin to understand the alternatives. I always get parents that will say reclassing is really bad. This isn't reclassing. I want to make sure I stress that. I'm not talking to you as a parent about repeating your 8th grade year, whatever. I'm going to talk to you about postgraduate opportunities. I want you to understand a great post was put out by one of the most respected coaches, Mark Bonilla, Pennsylvania, great coach. And he put something out that kind of validated what I've been saying for the last 2 or 3 years. There are athletes that are looking to go to these higher level academic colleges and universities, and their transcripts, their hours are not being allowed by these baseball academies, these schools that call themselves postgraduate or high schools. They're, high schools that are created for athletics, and they take online classes. Now, I'm not saying this is a standard, but there are certain schools and universities, colleges and universities, where those transcript hours, those grades, are not going to be allowed. So you have to understand that with regard to some, and it will grow, colleges and universities, you want to look into, for instance, Billy Wagner teaches at a very prominent prep/boarding school in Virginia. A lot of the bigger private boarding schools or prep schools are located, for the most part, throughout the Mid-Atlantic into the Northeast. And these schools have been around for centuries. and they are elite academic athletic institutions. And, you know, a lot of people, and I lived in Louisiana for 7 years. I loved living in Metairie. I have a lot of great friends there to this day. And when I would broach the topic of, hey, postgrad, oh, no, that's for, you know, high school guys that aren't, you know, very academic oriented. Oh, contraire, that's not true. The reality is that these schools really offer life altering opportunities, and there are scholarships. I have a football coach, and I'm just going to prove this because I have somebody throwing shade my way that I make up these stories, which I laugh and chuckle about. But this is a coach, a football coach at the Salisbury School. Positional needs. Here's a fact. Here it is. Look at the date, 8:32 p.m. And it's today. I got this email today. You know, there are coaches now that reach out to me for all sports. Why? Because I've been in this industry for over 38 years. I have a relationship with these schools that have been around for 2+ centuries. This is not about just baseball. And I want to point number 3, whether we look at it from an academic perspective or we look at it from a quality of life with regard to learning life skills, college is an integral part of your student athlete's growth. Now, there are colleges in North Carolina with Guilford that have vocation. They're a 2-year junior college, but it's vocational school. There are colleges that offer, you know, electrical, plumbing, things of that nature. I'm not just strictly talking about a business degree, a sports management degree, law enforcement, criminal justice. I'm just talking to you about the realities is that college is a transitionary period. It's not a transactional period. We had that discussion a few weeks ago. So I want you to know that this industry, which is what it is, it's a business. Parents, you have to look at college and you have to say, what is our plan for college? Why are we going to college? What is it we're looking to obtain from college? What is it that we can gain from athletic ability for academic excellence? Now, academic excellence can mean a degree. It can mean, a physical maturation, life experience. How can I trade my athletic ability for the best possible opportunity? Now, I have a young man I'm working with there from Florida, and he's currently a postgraduate at Phillips Exeter. I'm not going to use his name or family name. Without being at the school that he is at, he would have a very difficult time getting into some of these more prestigious academic schools. But because he's at that postgraduate school, he's trading his athletic ability, in his case, a pitcher, to be able to get into a school that is often referred to as the Harvard or Yale of high schools around the world, not just the United States. And he's going to trade his ability as a pitcher. He got into this postgraduate school, which is extremely difficult to do. And now he's going to go to an elite academic university. And he knows without being where he is now, he would not get an opportunity to go to these schools. And then when he says, well, that's a great Division III school. Can I play at Division I? Well, you could, but the academics at this school are elite, and this school maybe doesn't have that major of international finance or, economics, international economics. And so we have to begin to have this dialogue as parents. It's not just baseball, because if it was all about baseball, we'd be talking a whole different world of business and buying athletes, which brings me to my last point, and that is this. In 2026 and 2027, there is going to be a massive upheaval again. Television contracts run out in college athletics in 2026. Collective bargaining agreement at the Major League Baseball level between players and owners expires. That means there's going to be a new negotiated contract, which means you're going to see a change in the minor league development system with regard to minor league teams. International draft could be reduced. Rounds could be reduced. There could be more money. There could be some sort of I don't want to use the word partnership, working relationship between Major League Baseball and the NCAA at the Division I levels, possibly Team USA. The world of baseball now is global. Look at the World Baseball Classic. Look at Japan. Look at China. Look at Mexico. Look at Australia, who is hosting the 2032 Olympics. Folks, there is so much going on that we don't connect dots. So somebody is trying to tell you they're a recruiting service and they can connect your dots. Well, guess what? The state colleges and all of these schools across the country that used to be, well, I don't really want to go there. They're just a state school. Well, guess what? They're harder to get into. Guess what? They're getting a lot of athletes. They're getting access to a lot of athletes that they never had access to before. Don't take my word for it. Listen to the college coaches talk on Thursday. They used to love to get a kid 85, 88 at Division III. Now they're getting guys 88, 93 that used to be all Division I. So my point to you is there is a business component to this dynamic, and parents, athletes, trading athletic ability for academic process, academic excellence, academic access. That should be your plan. Let me answer a couple questions before we wrap up. Canes, you guys are killing it. Congratulations on that win over Florida State Seminoles. I know tomorrow morning, you guys, Miami Hurricane baseball is back. It is definitely back. Scott, do you think that a kid that plays 4 years at NAIA will have a fifth year? Yes, I do. At a fifth-year opportunity at NCAA school. If NCAA goes to 5 years, yes. Will NCAA still have redshirt? No. It's just 5 years to play 5, period. End of story. And, Scott, I want to add to this. So those parents that don't see these questions that tell me that they're made up, I got that email that I'm making up questions. I mean, I get a chuckle out of some of these emails that I get. But Scott definitely is asking me this question, and I want to answer this. 5 years, what is that going to mean? Let's think about this. One, if you're a 4-year NAIA, you can have the opportunity to go play for a fifth year. You better believe those college coaches are going to be looking for a fifth-year guy. I promise you. 2, if you're somebody that's academic orientated and you graduate with an undergraduate degree in 3.5 years, now you're going to have that MT next to your name in the portal, which means you're a graduate degree student, which means you have different rules because you're not an undergraduate, you're a graduate student. You could conceivably have 2 years to get a graduate degree. So think about the Ivy Leagues, the NESCAT, the Patriot League. Think about somebody that's at, Bates, Bowdoin, Tufts, Amherst, Wesleyan, Hamilton. Think about those schools. And now I graduate in 3.5 years and I'm a stud. And I can go to JMU, I can go to Duke, I can go to Wake, I can go to Vanderbilt, I can go to UVA. That's going to begin to materialize. Same thing with NAIA. And Scott, that's a great question. That is why I'm broaching this topic. A lot of people think I do this on Tuesdays to pontificate, to promote. No, I do this so that you as families can get some insight as to what is coming down the tracks. That's why I do what I do. And I want you to know that there are college coaches that are watching tonight. And they want me to share this information because a better educated family and student athlete allows the college coaches to not have to be explaining, and they know about the fifth year. They know about the collective potentially coming down. And those things are going to be part of the 2027 and 2028 classes. They're going to be a part of the future of college athletics. See, Mr. Smith, are these things you're hearing from your coaches about the changes after 26? I think a lot of the changes are going to come in during the spring. When I say spring, January of 26, technically we're about to enter into the spring season. If we think about JUCO opens up at the end of January, Division One begins practice in the middle of January, and they open their season in the middle of February. So I know when I say January, February, they're not spring months, but technically it's part of the spring season. I do believe you're going to hear a lot of these changes with regard to the fifth year, the collectives. Trust me when I tell you, a lot of alumni at the NCAA schools, Division One, Division Two, Division Three, that have a lot of affluent, alumni. They're going to put some of these packages together. It's going to happen because that portal is providing access to elite athletes, and these elite athletes all want to play. It's no different than Major League Free Agency. Who has a need and who has room and who has opportunity? And the high school coach, high school athletes are the ones that have to begin to understand I need to be physically and mentally prepared. I have to be resilient. I have to have mental discipline and toughness. I have to have physical preparation and skill sets that will allow me, the opportunity to get between the lines. That's not meant to kick the high school athlete to the curb, because a lot of colleges build their cultures and their programs with the high school athlete, meaning they come in there, they're part of that program for 3, 4, 5 years. This is how we do things here. This is what we do. It's not what you do, it's what we do. And so when I'm talking about high school athletes, I need you to understand the college coaches want elite high school athletes, but they want them to be ready to compete for opportunities to get between the line. They want them to be able to play a role on a team. And so that is really critical for you as parents and student athletes to begin to navigate this process in finding the correct fit, FIT, fit. It's not about validation. Look at me. I'm going to Division One. Thank you to the big guy upstairs. Thank you to my travel coach, my high school coach. Thank you to my mom and dad. I'm going to Division One. It's not going to be that way. I'm going to this college. I'm going to a community college. Community colleges, by the way, are junior colleges. I had a parent ask me that question. And community colleges now, more than ever, are going to play an integral role for families. And here's why. By going to a junior college, and let's not talk about baseball for a second. Let me put my this is what I do for a living hat on. And that is, when you go to a junior college, a lot of junior colleges are financially more appealing because you're going to get that foundation of your 2 years of core curriculum: math, science, English, language, those types of, that associate's kind of degree. But you're going to get 2 years at a financially feasible, affordable level. And in some cases, they incentivize you to stay in state. There's schools in Louisiana. There's TOPS. Florida has a program. Massachusetts has a program. Basically, every state has that. And so JUCO is very, very Northern Essex, Quinsigamond here in Massachusetts, CCRI in Rhode Island, Yukon Avery Point in Connecticut. We can start talking about those programs, but they are a very viable opportunity for those athletes that are looking to play 2 years at JUCO and then go play 3 years now at the NCAA or 2 years at NAIA. Again, a lot of information to start throwing out at families, but that's what we should be talking about. Okay, here we go. Amen. PSU, fall academics. Absolutely. I have Trevor from Pennsylvania, now lives in Mississippi, but he was part of the, Pennsylvania State program. There's a lot of SUNY programs in New York, State University, New York, things of that nature. My son wants to do a post-grad year. He's a 2026. So when he sends emails to coaches, how does he present himself? You are a 26 high school grad looking to become a part of the 27 class at a post-grad school. I really want to emphasize this. Bucks, I assume you're from Tampa or the greater Tampa area. Just look at the Miami coach. We just took 2 JUCO pitchers that will be a part of the 26 class. So, in other words, the JUCO pitcher Oh man, I hate this when I'm talking a lot. And I get it. I talk a lot. So you can make fun of me tomorrow morning with your emails. Um, the JUCO pitcher, here's why they are appealing to college coaches. It's because they're active participants in a uniform. They have a resume. Parents, you must begin to understand that when you pick a school and you go there and you're not an active participant and you're in uniform and you're a spectator at a Division I or Division II team, those colleges at the end of the year that are starting to look at portal athletes, they're going to prioritize those athletes that are at JUCO that played or were at a Division III, II, or NAIA school and played. Just because you're at big name University X and you didn't get any innings or at bats and you're transferring out of the Power 4, Power 5, Power 8 conferences, coaches are looking for athletes that have a resume, a resume that shows, okay, you're between the lines, you participated, you're getting quality at bats, quality innings. And that's why JUCO is appealing. But I also want to let parents understand when you choose the JUCO option or lower levels of college, meaning potentially NAIA, NCAA Division III, or even two, some of those programs, not all, have JV programs. They have developmental squads, and they could have a roster of 70. I've known JUCOs that have tryouts with over 150 athletes, and they keep 80 or 90. So you need to educate yourself, and I get it. You feel overwhelmed. The first thing to do is on a piece of paper, write out your desired type of college experience. Write it out, put it in front of you. This is the type of school. These are the majors. This is the campus size. These are the geographics. These are the athletics. These are, the fields, the facilities, the amenities, anything that matters to you, your student athlete should be on a piece of paper. I always get asked this question, what good does that do? When you're talking to college coaches and they ask you, what are you looking for? Well, I have, this is my list. And that is what they want to see. That is what they want to see. Okay. Last question. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to answer that question. The question is something to do with regard to talking about post grad versus baseball academies. I'm not here to pass judgment. The world of endeavors and professional opportunities, I'm not going to criticize anyone that is a business owner. If you open up a baseball academy and you feel that that's the right service, great. But I'm only going to share with you that postgraduate opportunities that offer an academic component, meaning your student athlete is not necessarily repeating their senior year, which is the biggest misunderstanding in the world. They're actually learning how to be college ready, college prepared, how to live with a roommate, how to be accountable for your study routine, your daily routine, you're getting up early and working out, or study habits, or how to eat at the cafeteria, how to have a refrigerator in your room, learning to be a college student before you actually have to be a college student. Also, in many cases, you're getting college hours. Some athletes do that at their high school. But by going to a postgraduate, you may be able to take transferable college hours. I'm going to give you three leagues. One, Founders League. Two, the ISL. And three, the NEPSAC, NEPSAC, NEPSAC. Schools like the Winchendon School, Phillips Exeter, Phillips Andover, Deerfield. Now, I have a playlist that sits on my YouTube channel that has 11 videos for postgraduate. They probably have less than 1,000 views collective. That information is worth thousands of dollars. You're hearing from coaches, you're hearing from parents, you're hearing from student athletes that are in high school going to a postgrad, that are currently in postgrad schools or are in college. These are invaluable tools that you have access to. I want to say thank you. I rambled. I started late. My wife is doing a activity this week that I am helping her. She is always helping me, and therefore I'm always going to help her when she needs help. Proline balls, the code is in the description below. I encourage you to use that code, save 15% on all of your need for softballs, baseballs, the training balls that you use. Baseball Blue Book. I get asked this question a lot. It is becoming Blue Book sports. The Blue Book has been around for over 100 years. Now, you saw that email that I showed you. Blue Book sports, basketball, softball, tennis, lacrosse, soccer, hockey, football, all the sports, create your profile. You're a travel program, create your profile. You're a high school program, create a profile. You're an individual student athlete, create a profile. You're a college coach, create a profile. Why? It's free. And it opens up an engagement. And there are filters now that allow coaches to go in and say, I'm looking for a left-hand hitting middle infielder from Wisconsin. And you can filter it down. I'm looking for all left-hand hitting middle infielders with a GPA of 3.2. The Blue Book sports, Blue Book baseball, baseball Blue Book, softball Blue Book. Download the Blue Book. It is free. And you can interact with other athletes. You can put your video on there. You can put your transcripts on there. It is a great way to put video, game video, or practice video on the app. Trevor, you're always welcome, my good man. Which of these three would you say is more important, GPA, SAT, or ACT? Or would you say they all carry the same amount of weight? Okay, I generally get into this, and I know that 90% of you are going to find this answer boring, but I am going to share something with you. When we start talking about recruiting, we want to think of recruiting as a pie, okay, a whole pie. In my case, it would be a blueberry pie. And that blueberry pie, okay, if I'm looking at the entire pie and I can smell the pie, I want to know that A, I have good transcripts, I have good test scores. When I say good, strong, doesn't have to be elite. Good transcript, which is generally core Q rated or Q weighted or weighted core GPA of a 3.2 or higher, weighted GPA, all 4 years, your core subjects, 3.2. Test scores. Sometimes somebody will have a lower GPA, but high test scores. That shows, they are capable of doing this work. It shows aptitude. Maybe the GPA, I got a B minus somewhere in there, but I tested really well with regard to the SAT math or the ACT math. So SAT, ACT, taking tests multiple times shows admissions departments that you are taking pride in your ability as a student. A college coach often will ask your GPA. They want to know that you take pride in everything that you do, that you're not, because that pie that I'm referring to, if you're only a good athlete, you're only going to have access to maybe 30% of the pie, meaning you can't get recruited by the other 70% because you're not admissions eligible. You're not a qualifier at the NCAA level. There's a lot of dynamics to this. So if you want to be 100% appealing to college coaches, have good academics, have good test scores, and have good aptitude as an athlete. I always try to tell parents, when you say to me you're not a good test taker or your student athlete is not a good test taker, I know that to be true. My oldest son wasn't what I would call a great test taker. In a lot of schools at the high school level, the boarding school, prep school, they have programs now that work with those students to help with regard to longer time periods to take the test, tutoring, peer tutoring, professional tutoring, etc. But having good study habits, having good study routines will show college coaches an attention to detail, a well-rounded student athlete. Community service, huge. I did a master class on YouTube I mean, I really went all out to do this master class. It's about an hour and a half long. I think maybe so far it might have 300 views. And that information covers all of this information. And I'm still bewildered when I say, okay, this is free. It's completely free and nobody wants to watch it. But you want to spend $350 for an evaluation. That's a fact. I see a lot of people online that, you know, charge 350, 500 for an evaluation. And then you have people that charge 10,000, 15,000. Oh, they must be really good because they charge a lot of money. There's a lot of things on my YouTube channel that are free. You can listen to parents, you can listen to athletes that are now, not 10 years ago, not 5 years ago, not 20 years ago. Like right now, they're actually living these things that we discuss each and every week because it's a community. We, collective community, can build this together if we just take all the resources. Do you know how many college coaches now say, hey, Walt, I'd like to be on your coach's corner? And the reason is they want to get this information out to you because they want to help you and it helps them. That's why we do it. So thank you again for all of your questions tonight. I encourage you, if you can on your way out, when you find your way to this, if you've made it this far and you've watched this whole video, I applaud you and I give kudos. I promised I would only go a half hour and I lost a bet to my wife. And she said, there's no way you could ever do any of that for half an hour. So she's right and I am wrong. Please engage with the video. Please share the video. Please share the YouTube video. Share the YouTube channel. Share, the engagement. Bring people to the channel. Encourage them to subscribe. Encourage them to engage. Find their way to some of the videos from the past. They can be informative and they can help you. Next Tuesday, we'll do this again. Remember the topics we talked about: fifth year, the name, image, and likeness collective, the NCAA selective, collective is coming, and the postgraduate world. I'm not pushing that because I know for many families it's not affordable, and I was one of those families. And my youngest son here was able to go to a school that I could never afford in 10 lifetimes. But because he was a football and a baseball player, they offered a great scholarship. And I wanted to trade athletic ability. So I don't just say this, I lived this as a dad. I had a Toyota Prius making $48,000 a year. I could not afford to send my son to a $78,000 a year school, but I could afford to spend 10. I had to work a lot of extra hours, but I could afford that. And it altered his future. It prepared him for a school such as Vanderbilt. Without his ability to throw a baseball, he would never have been a student at Vanderbilt University. I'm not silly enough to think that he was. He was smart, a hard worker, a diligent worker, and he got a great degree from Vanderbilt University. He got a great degree from Lawrence Academy. I've lived this. So I'm not just telling you something. I'm sharing with you something that I've experienced as a parent. So I really want to make that designation. So if you have questions, walter@coachbeede.com. I encourage you to go there. The new website is out, Coach Beede. You can send messages to me there, coachbeede.com. Still a little couple of minor tweaks to go, but I look forward to speaking with everybody next Tuesday. And again, this Thursday, Coach's Corner, legendary coach Joe Brown, Cortland State University. College baseball, Cortland State, 32 consecutive NCAA regional appearances. Let me say that again, 32 consecutive years that Cortland State has gone to an NCAA regional, and they have played in the College World Series. Joe Brown is a legendary, and I don't use that word often, legendary college coach. And you will hear from him, NCAA Division III, this coming Thursday. Must watch. Till next Tuesday, have a great week in school, great week in baseball. Study.